everyone, welcome back to the Collegiate Call of Duty League. My whole shift with Proper for you on the evening. An evening which is going to be filled with tons of incredible matchups. We've got 4 of them tonight, not just 3. We've got 4 for you guys, saying that, well, we kind of missed one on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, so let's go ahead and just slip another one into Thursday, making sure you guys are getting all 6 games that you want here with the CCL. Of course, like I mentioned in my whole shift with Proper, our first game coming up is Humber Esports, our defending champions from last year, currently number 2 in the top 25. Going up against another Northeastern battle of Lambton Esports, a squad that has looked good so far this year, but a lot of, not to discredit them completely, they haven't really played anyone too difficult. This is going to be one of their biggest tests so far of the year.
Took the words right out of my mouth there, Shift. Lambton definitely have a tall mountain ahead of them to climb. And well, with Humber in front of them, Lambton, I'm very excited. This is going to be the first time that I get to see them. I think for you as well. So we get to see not only what they're made of, but how they feel when their backs are against the wall. Because we, like you already said, Humber coming off of Black Ops 4, last season's champions. They have already made a pretty well-known name for themselves. They are pretty aggressive. They know how to turn up that when it's time to do so. So I'm excited to see how Lambton's going to be able to play out against Humber, who are first in this division. You said second overall in the top 25, the Northeast division, where Lambton is at 7th. So I'm interested to see if Lambton can find any headway against Humber this time.
Yeah, and for Humber as well, I mean, they've had a pretty good go of it so far. They played up against the good Rutgers Scarlet squad and both Penn State teams, which have been pretty solid throughout the year, as well as meeting up against Maryland before they take on this matchup here versus Lambton. And again, I think out of the Northeastern division, those are pretty much who you're looking at to be the top breadwinners in that top potential 8, which is currently where all of those teams actually are positioned, are in the top 8. So it'd be interesting to see what exactly occurs here if Humber can keep their streak alive. And if they do, does that mean that they're able to essentially run through the next handful of weeks just working on cleaning some things up? Because again, they don't really play anybody else too difficult until really anywhere. This is pretty much the end of it. It's an easy going from here on out for Humber. So this will be a really interesting point. And, going back to last year with this Humber squad, they started off really middle of the road. I think an even 7-7. They made a handful of roster swaps, then went undefeated for the rest of the year. And now, again, trying to come into the season 2, not dropping a map ever. And let's just go ahead, or not dropping a match at least ever. Let's just go undefeated for the whole season and one up ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that one map that is on the website, that loss ended up coming on Ramaza S&D, actually, where they lost 3-6. I think that was against a Penn State team, the Penn State white team, if I do recall correctly, in week number 2. But what's even scarier about that is that it's an opening that Lambton could possibly take advantage of. The map scores we won't go into in finer detail, but S&D and domination for Lambton, for scores anyway, for how the points may value, domination is where they're strongest at. S&D is also where they're weaker at. However, going up against Humber, maybe that slow, methodical play style you and I have seen countless times here on CCL, even all the way up to the CDL, that when you start getting to those slow, methodical game modes, such as S&D, if you could slow down the tempo of domination, those 2 maps right in the middle, maps 2 and 3, could start turning teams such as Humber that like to play the aggressive stature right on their backs.
Absolutely. And speaking of this Humber squad, let's take a look at their roster real quick to deal with which 5 players we're going to see today. Of course, I'm sure you're familiar with most of them. Tunes, Crozier, Louis, Cushpoint, and Stevie. Again, this team has looked very, very good since they really came together. And of course, if you're familiar with Crozier, Tunes, and the rest of the squad from last year, they did nothing but impress all throughout the entirety. And I think, it's hard to pick out one specific person. And, for me and you, Proper, we talked about that a lot last year when we were talking about this squad near playoffs. It's hard to pick out one guy because all 5 are performing at a high level, usually all the time.
You are so not wrong. Go ahead and take a look at their adversaries for today. 7th place in Northeast Division, Lambton, Bear Maverick, Valmiki, Adam Skywalker, looking to play probably the high ground to the best of their abilities. Who knows? And O'Malley as well. Again, not too known of names, but they've been making a good running here in the Northeast Division, and they could do some good damage against Humber. We already talked about how they already had some of their strongest matchups thus far. This is another one ahead of them, and with their schedule going on, it's a little bit easier as it may look right now. Lambton look to find themselves at a certain advantage.
And going into what maps we're going to be taking a look at for this series as well to break that down for you. Starting off, we'll be going to Azir Cave. And again, this is going to be interesting, I think, if Lambton can even match up against Humber and how good they are, just the individual gun skill. Again, ARs are massive for that first opening hill, and usually you see 2 sticking two ARs rather, sticking to the meta throughout the entirety of the map. So again, that long-range battle is what I'm looking for there. Then we'll jump over to Ramaza, Search, and Destroy, and if we need all three Gunrunners, that'll be what finishes off our set. Regardless, we will see at least a Gunrunner domination, though, for this first matchup.
Yeah, for sure. And, well, the triple Gunrunner may end up coming around. Like I had talked about, Ramaza S&D was a loss 3-6. That Humber ended up falling to. So that could end up being, whether it's a demon in the passenger seat of them that they're looking to take off into the sunset, or they're looking to face head on, is going to have to be time that we'll have to see. And I'm excited to figure it out regardless. But I think, again, for Lambton, what they're going to be looking at is slowing up the pace. You already talked about how Humber like to play. It's that profile that's already coming through, though I haven't seen them on Modern Warfare. I can only imagine that it could go that way even further. Talked about individual gun skill. I mean, Tunes, Cushpoint, Crozier, they all come to mind. Like you said, at the end of last season, it was hard to pinpoint an MVP off this team.
Yeah, and we had a hard time voting on it too. Flat out, it was very difficult to decide if there was even an MVP because everyone played so damn well.
Yep.
But let's jump into it. Azir Cave will be map number 1, like you mentioned, for the hardpoint. Interested to take a look to see what Humber is able to provide here going into it as far as that AR setup. And for Lambton Esports, are they going to be able to match up against this at all? Because that's going to be the biggest test, is can they find a way to get some extra gun skill into the mix? Because they're going to need to find a way to match up, especially as we'll watch on Stevie, who's going to be coming out of the rip first.
Yeah, and this first hardpoint turns into a giant brawl. You typically won't see a definitive point lead, maybe just by a handful, but it's all about that spawns. 4 P2 on Cave East, that could end up coming about there. Good angles being held already by Humber. You see them starting to encroach on forward into that rug shop. Although Lambton are currently in control of the hardpoint, they're quickly wiped away by Humber Esports.
Yeah, and that's a really good start here for Humber. Now, not sure if they're going to be able to spawn this Lambton squad out. It will be actually towards P4 where Lambton's spawning at, so taking their attention over towards this mid-cut cave. It's going to be a couple of kills coming through, so not bad for Lambton, a 3-for-1 trade, but again, only one player is really working towards the hill itself. Everyone else is working for the P2 spawns, and with the couple players getting shut down, Humber will maintain the hill, but now they're going to be tough on the rotation, try to work their way into the back for P2.
It's just like I talked about off the rip there. It's very important for the team that even loses or wins to get this rotation into P2. It's so hard to break on into P2 on Cave East. You see a good defense thus far. Lambton fighting off the rotation from Humber. Although they're getting a lot of good points, it will be 40 some odd seconds before it ends up rotating over into Cave East. But Lambton, they already have the spawns. They have the setup. It just comes down to the execution.
And again, just taking a look to see what they're able to do, because Lambton, with the hold in the back, is in a position to start soaking up some early time. One player on the cross, Stevie able to take care of him, looking for a second. Nicely found for Stevie. That's going to open up a lot of space here for Humber to start working their way in. Nobody off the cross to be watching him. Now it's up to the SMGs for Humber to break in, and they will do just that. Cushpoint finding the final couple of kills. Lambton will still spawn in, but they're going to have to work their way against these ARs, looking down these tunnels. Good smoke cover here for Lambton as they try to push forward. A couple of numbers are here as well, but they're just not winning the gunfights, unfortunately. They'll finally get one, but it's not enough for the full break. 20 seconds still left, and with Cushpoint finding a handful, it's Humber Esports with nearly a clean break.
And Stevie with a very good hold there. You talked about M4 control on Azir Cave. You're getting it here from Stevie's POV. Controlling the truck, pushing forward into the boxes, looking at the jump cave. Even though Lambton had a fantastic smoke grenade coming through, all of those angles are already being covered by the M4s, Cushpoint and Stevie together. You see Cushpoint already on the rotation towards Fields, gets traded out. However, it is a pretty even split, though Humber are already on the hard point, and they're winning out in trades here, Shift. This is quite devastating for Lambton. They are spawning back towards the new hard point here in the middle of the field. They just have to get the kills to turn it in their favor.
And you really do not want to be full flooding here if you're Lambton. You want to try to find a way to work the middle of the map, maybe set up a little bit of a pinch. You still have plenty of time to do that. Bear's going to try to jump on through, but not able to find Crozier. And eventually there will be a trade, so Lambton will break. Plenty of time here for them to sow, but they do have to hold on to the positioning because you got to watch out for this P4 rotation. Humber is starting to work mid-map. Crozier finds himself one. Cushpoint does get shut down on the hill, so again, good for Lambton on the scrap time, but you can see all the yellow arrows are starting to make their way into that eastern cave.
Yeah, Lambton do have two players here in Cave West. Already set up for P4. Winning out these gunfights would be huge, although traded out. And he goes down. And there's the second from Crozier. That M4 shot ringing on true. With the trophy system coming down, this is going to be really hard now. Like I said, Lambton Esports have to break on in. Although they soaked up the rest of that scrap time, this much like Cave East, P2 and 4 are swing points. It's really hard to dig out and get the team that is entrenched into this hard point. You see them already peeking through the mid scoop, already shutting down where B-Dom normally is. well executed so far from Humber.
You got to watch out, though, because, you know, for Lambton, they do get a little bit of a surround, but Humber actually spawned behind the push through the P4 henhouse, and with that, it kind of set up a natural pinch, and fortunately for Humber, they had enough members in the hill to stay alive, so that flank could come through, but again, with all the trades back and forth, it actually leads to essentially a 50-50 where no one's actually grabbing time right now, and for the side of Lambton, you're fine with this. You're just going to make sure they don't generate any score, try to get yourself set up for P5, and then with only 15 seconds remaining, you say, go ahead, have it, we'll try to get a full 60 here in this next hill.
Yeah, they're getting the kills. The exit frags are coming through off of P4. Scrap time will be going over to Humber. The rotation's coming through over to P5, which is on that cliff side. And like you already mentioned, Shift, Lambton were wise enough. They gave that up. They already have a player here on the hard point. They're on new. Players from Humber are still working through the cave, and this is just time exhausted that they can't be pushing forward. Player from Lambton doing a good job of just exhausting time at that. They will go down by way of push point. Now comes the hit from Humber Esports. They get a break. Kill onto the point. It's good for a trade at least. Humber Esports, they're looking at a break here sometime soon.
And Lambton's actually spawning right outside the garage by P3, so they have the opportunity here to try to flood on through. Still plenty of time to fight for. Humber is sending 3 members right on top of the hill itself. Cush Point again finding a handful of kills. I believe that was 6 straight that I just saw pop up in the score feed for him, having himself a great game so far. Again, the M4 presence that we were worried about. Can Lambton match up against the gun skill of Humber? They've done decent on the 50-50 trades, but when it comes to the macro, the long sense of the game, Humber is winning out on these trades a little bit by little bit, allowing them to get these little bits of scrap time, and they're going to find themselves at the first rotation up 155 to 82.
Yeah, look at all of Lambton's arrows, too. Much like the previous rotation, we're about to be in a full rotation back to P1 in the center of the map, where Lambton have already set up. They are getting a good amount of entry time here on the hard points, but it comes down to further that time by getting the kills once you're already set on the point, and they have been failing at that time and time again. Shift. Once again, kills being traded off. Humber Esports are getting pretty good spawns, and they can swarm back on here. They're in control of the hard point yet again. It comes down to Pear to make a play. He does.
And now it's up to Bear to keep his life a little bit longer. Again, the P2 spawns have been repossessed here by Lambton. Down 60 points only. Bear, he really wants these last 25. His teammates are not helping him, though, so he's essentially by himself. Nice play for one. Not going to find the second. And it looks like the final handful of seconds will go to Humber Esports on this scrap time. And you can see Lambton, you got to be a little careful here. They're pushing a handful of players up into the cave system, but they got to watch out for this push mid-map because there's really only one player sitting top cobble, and you can see all the yellow names that are starting to surround. But it looks like for now, Lambton's doing a really nice job of just holding on. So as the point opens up, it's 181 to 102, and Lambton in good possession to P2 again.
Yeah, and Humber has to take their time here. They have to go for some sort of pincer. They have one player looking at Cave East to where the hill is. One player about to be working into trucks. I believe that is Stevie. Trophy system comes down here to keep them safe from some nades for the time being. Hills are coming through, though, in favor of Humber Esports. They have a break here shift. They work their way in. It was a really good hold from Lambton. But the slow, methodical push and then the pincer really caps Lambton out. But they all spawn out towards Blue Broken, over by the fields. And they're looking to make another hit in here sometime, too.
Yeah, and I think you kind of have to. You don't want to give up these last 20 seconds. The P3 hill is breakable, at least a little bit easier than P2 would be. But they are being a bit spawn-trapped here. Cush Point, double chow, no problem for him. He's now on 5 straight. One of a million lives, it feels like, that he's been able to string together a handful of kills. He takes one more down as the late challenge came through, and one more side cave will finally put down him. But still, a big time there for Humber Esports, and they've won the rotation to get to P3. We're looking at a 206-119 score.
And this is really scary because it was a high-risk, high-reward. You weren't wrong, Shift, that Lambton did have to all in to try to get that scrap time, but Cush Point has been having themselves in a zero cave here today on hard point. And then losing out the rotation as well because of those kills coming out from the exit of the previous hard point here in the soccer fields where the rotation and the spawns are in favor for Humber. This is not looking good for Lambton. 20 seconds going up and counting. They can win it right here. Kills and being traded out. Not in favor for Humber because you see the smoke grenade keeping Stevie alive. Nobody going to be able to contest this anytime soon. They got to get on.
Yeah, 243, and again, the zone is so good here for Humber. How do you even touch this? It doesn't look like anyone's going to. Last hope for Lambton is from the back. Will get the kill, but it's just too late. 250 to 119. And I will say this, you know, I was generally impressed with a lot of what Lambton had to provide as far as setups go. A lot of really well-timed rotations and finding a number of great kills on the transition from hill to hill, but it's moments like this from Cush Point where he was able to absolutely turn up and outslay with that M4. Again, the AR gunplay coming through for Humber, just too much to handle. And when Humber did get set up properly, they were holding 45 to 60 seconds nearly every single time. And that was the big difference for me, is even the times that Lambton was set up properly, they were still getting broken just simply due to the fact that Humber was just not going to get outgunned that map.
Yeah, I mean, I called it. It was about the third time that they were winning out in rotation, setting themselves up on the hard point, way ahead of Humber. It just came down to the execution, and the trade's never in their favor. It was an unfortunate failure that Lambton found them on themselves on, especially with such good execution and discipline to recognize that they shouldn't be going for early scrap time and going for those early rotations within the first set of hard points. But regardless, we talked about the profile of Humber Esports. I mean, they are fast-paced. They have very high mechanical skill with all guns across the board. And they're not afraid to push the advantage. Cush Point popping off. Toon Stevie going absolutely crazy. We saw Crozier in there as well. The M4s and the MP5s across the board for Humber Esports are ringing on true. But head into Ramaza S&D shift to where things could end up slowing down. The tempo could be taken away from Humber. Lambton might have a shot, but Humber Esports, even when the tempo was down back in Black Ops 4, they know how to play that very well.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we have a chance to look at our scoreboard real quick as far as what we just did, what we're going to be going up to next, again, the search and destroy coming in is going to be Ramaza for the search and destroy. So again, this is another map style where the AR gunplay is really going to come into fruition. Again, our scoreboard not updated currently, but after the 250 to 119 map win for Humber, they're up 1-0. So going into this map 2, again, you feel a little bit worried here for Lambton as far as what they're able to get going as far as that AR gunplay. That's where it really felt like the suffer was really being felt the most for this Lambton Lions squad, and something that you hope will change in this near future, especially considering that you've got not only Ramaza next, but also Gunrunner, where, again, usually only one AR per team is playing on that domination, but he plays a very pivotal role.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like that long sight range from tins all the way down. Absolutely insane. But, you know, at the end of the day, I even with M4s in hand on Azir Cave, to where you would think that those longer sight lines from west to east would be to where Lambton might be able to come out on top against Humber. I mean, no opportunity ever presented itself. So Humber is always in your face, no matter what weapon it seemed were in the arms of any of these players. And again, living up to the nature of why it's so hard to comment on which one would be the better out of all 5, because they're all just doing their jobs so wonderfully, covering all the angles. That hit onto P2 during its second rotation really comes to mind, where Cush Point just bullied his way on the point and then just never really gave up until it was a double chow and a pincer, starting to run out of ammo as well. Mechanical skill from these players across the board are very scared to deal with that. Lambton might even have to consider going for a double hit when they're on offense, just trying to catch them out in numbers, just to out-bullet them, I suppose. If the shots can't ring true from one, might as well outnumber them in a second. But it is S&D to where things could get tricky. I mean, we even saw up in the CDL to where we would assume, such as an Arclaw Peak, where it would be a continuous hit onto A, teams starting to get spicy over to B. Things like that could end up coming out, especially when the matchup is a fire one, like Lambton finds themselves against number 1 placed in Northeast Division Humber Esports. We'll find out exactly how that all comes to be. We'll step away for a small break. When we come back, Ramaza map 2 just after this. Welcome back to the CCL. We're ready to go here with map number 2. Again, after Humber Esports was able to take the first map 250 to 119, just waiting on our little bottom scoreboard to update. They are up 1-0, and it will be Ramaza Search and Destroy coming up next year for us proper. We already kind of framed things up well, but one thing we did not touch on is the simple fact that Humber is actually not playing with their full 5 today. They're playing with a couple of substitutes, giving them a little bit of a workout here versus Lambton squad. Yeah, gonna have to go ahead and flex the bench a little bit, I suppose, make them get some play time. We already set it up wonderfully. I mean, some of their harder matchups have already come and gone. So, I mean, if you're going to start do it now, might as well be in the meaty part of the season, regardless of what is going on with those other players. We'll never know. We don't have that information. But what we do know, so we're here, baby. Ramaza S&D. What's it going to be? I'm going to get any snipers? I mean, this is going to be the place out of any of the maps, all 3 that we're playing across all 5 modes today on this first match. And we'll be able to see it across the tunnel all the way past the munitions. But on offense is Lambton first. Gonna have 2 players, one looking towards the mid, going bottom cafe, actually. It's a good defensive setup so far from Humber. Yeah, but you also have a couple of players here for Lambton that really could open things up. I'm looking at this player that's at the top of the rug shop. If he can find a pick over the middle, where there is a player sitting top of the bottom of the doors, not just outside, very well could open up some space. There will be a little bit of an engagement happening in that cafe. Skywalker going to take that opportunity just to move on forward. And while Melly is able to take down the first blood, now all of a sudden the bomb carrier could potentially just stick this and get a free plant off here at B. thrown out. Tactical. Giving a little bit of the position away. It will go down as Skywalker on the low ground ever so naturally. Bear will trade that out against Louis. Numbers advantage still in favor for Lambton. The Crozier starting to poke in through the bottom of the stairwell. Will get their ankles broken up. It's going to be Maverick, though Tunes finds Maverick in return. Comes down to Cush Point and Tunes to get the defensive victory. There is the one player from Humber rotating back through. The electronic shop will actually opt in for the jump wall peak as the bomb is planted down at B. Tunes will take care of O'Malley.
This is a really good spot for Tunes, and as long as he plays his life a little bit longer, he might get an opportunity to pinch this up. And the Cafe, one player up front, he gets his gun up in time, and goodness, that was close 1v1. Meanwhile, though, it's opened up some space. Cush Point, you can see him top gun shop. He's going to get concussed. So the information should be pretty solid here for Lambton, but it just comes down to can they get the kills. Tunes able to help out for the team shot, 13 seconds, and Cush has to get onto the bomb, and Bear's going to find both. A big clutch there for Bam. That's going to be Lambton Esports taking the first offensive round.
Step up, line them up, got some good early shots there onto Cush Point, was already weak. Followed up with those shots. All right, that concussion, you said it so wonderfully, Chef. That was all the information they needed. One player up in the gun shop. Another player rushing down the alleyway. Able to collapse all on top of that, too. Just really well executed. Bear finds 3 in that round alone. So does Tunes, though. I'm going to see how Humber answer back on their offense. Again, not to beat a dead horse here, but this is the weaker map. This is the map that they lost, 3-6 in week number 2. Like this aggressive push coming through already inside Cafe. You got 2 players down there. 2 players coming out from the tunnel as well.
And this is in traditional Humber fashion. You smoke, you execute, you get in. Trades are there. And with that, Cush Point able to find one more. So numbers advantage now for Humber. Maverick nearly gets a detonator onto Tunes' forehead, but not enough to get the kill. And a couple more exchanging of gunfight that is happening and favoring Humber as Cush Point's able to stay alive. Stevie will find 2 as he pushes through the gun shop. And just like that, it's just down to Velnicki. And, well, you see already been figured out. One player's going to hit from the side door of the electronic shop, no problem. And like I mentioned, in traditional Humber fashion, they execute, they go. There's no hesitation, and they come away with a pretty clean round offensively.
And I love that. Just by proxy, the one player left alone. They already wiped every other hold. It was the one lone player that was going to take the rotation over the jump wall from construction. Very surgical by Humber, like you said, and within their profile and their fashion, regardless. It was their defense of where they followed up from Lambton being able to find out a good, decent trades. And have to see if they do for the same setup this time round. Humber, per usual, on Ramaza, will put the one player up in construction. Player to meet them down at Cafe. It's going to be Louis. Probably heard that door open up right above them as well.
To say this is a very aggressive hit here for Humber, trying to push through the B side of the map. Not going to get any success besides just the first blood, though. Tunes will find another. There is a trade there, and Tunes wants to keep pushing forward. With Crozier able to find a pick, that's going to open up the opportunity for him to do just that. Melly able to find one more, though, so he's on 2 straight, making a third, and Velnicki is able to turn around for another. So just like that, it's a 2v1. Lambton turning the best situation out of the back end of what was a very aggressive push, but watch out for Cush Point. He will take one from the flank. That silence was Pop looking for the second on the challenge, and he'll find that one too. Humber Esports now up 2-1.
I love this defensive adaptation coming from Humber. They know what works well for them, right? Just absolute raw aggression, forcing their way through the side tunnel, finding a multitude of players, and then Tunes trying to get the third in the center. It's just like on their offense too. Reminds me of how Stevie just rushed on through munitions and found 2. For their defense, at the same tempo for their offense, Humber went 2 in sequence of one another. Lambton looked to answer back on their defense. And that poke engagement back and forth, well, Humber's not going to let you get away with that anymore, Lambton. Can expect some smoke grenades coming out. You see Tunes leading the charge here. Does have the bomb in Cush Point's hands. Cush Point trades out for a melee after Stevie goes down.
But they are kills on opposite sides of the map here. So with one player falling inside Cafe, that's going to go in favor of Lambton, at least positionally. The kill that Humber was able to find was in the backside of B, which really doesn't give you much information. Skywalker able to find one. Cush Point has to go prone just to keep his life. He finds some kind of a sanctuary behind this box, but again, has no idea where he has the challenge. Is going to come right through the door. Are you kidding me? That's absolutely bold, and Bear will fall. And I think Cush Point maybe just saw another player to sneak out towards the electronic shop. A very wise exit there for Lambton. 1v1 will go the way of Cush Point on that battle. Mickey's trying to stay alive, and it's not going to be enough as Humber will take now 2 rounds in a row, up 3 on.
The player up in construction for Lambton just either needs to rotate faster or just realize that through 2 rounds now, you haven't been contested not a single time, not even through mid, hasn't even shot their gun until they started rotating. Some more adaptations need to come through from Lambton because, again, Humber aren't going to let you sit there and play that poke war. They're just going to get in your face time and time again, and either using Louis as a meat shield so that way Stevie or Kush Point get the information, even Tunes for that matter. It's what's going to have to be done. I mean, you see Louis at 1-4 is doing their job just well. Kush Point at 6-1, Tunes at 6-3. It's exactly what you want from a good meat shield. I
just like picture in my head like Kush Point just like leaning over to Louis and whispering in his ear, "Bait for me, brother. Bait for me." It's doing just that. Louis now with an AR up top looking for a little 1v1 versus Million. There it is. Bait for me, brother. And Tunes now will be gifted the free kill. He's 7-3. Ooh. Maverick and Bear will find 2 picks, though. That was actually right over the middle of the map and towards B. Tunes is keen to where Maverick has been, though. Doesn't rechange his position, and Tunes will find his 2nd kill of the round, and will even up the numbers 3-3.
Got 2 players still. Skywalker has the bomb there in the side tunnel. It's about to be contested. This pincer onto the 1 Humber player will go down. Still Louis on the bomb site. Is going to be pincered even further, but Louis takes out Skywalker, has the bomb, goes down. Now Bear has to recontest this, gets the shots on the Louis. And that's going to be good here, leaving things in a 2v1. Kush Point has an M4. Looking over top cafe, just trying to figure out where the heck these players are. Won't be at sandbags. Well, these players saw the bomb drop. Going to be covering over top of the bomb site. 1 player going to be covering the stairs.
What a snap.
Fantastic shots from Kush Point, and now leaving this in a 1v1 versus Bear.
That's just
nasty.
Muscle memory at its finest right there. He doesn't even hesitate. Every bullet hits.
How can he walk on barbed wire?
There is a barbed wire, about to say that can't be comfortable, but it puts him in a cheeky spot. And again, Bear is playing this just as patiently, has no idea where Kush Point has gone off to. Seems to have dead silence in effect for him, so it's going to clear out the top side of the cafe. Nothing there. And now it comes down to the timing of this play, as dead silence, I'm sure, is about to fade away. Bear is going to hold this, and he might just be rewarded because Kush Point's going to check. It just comes down to the timing of this next play. And now he's going to commit. Oh, it's going to be close. He's not even going to get this off in time, and Kush Point will just back away. Yep. Time will expire, and Bear, he was hoping that he was going to get someone to check, and never happened. Good discipline from Humber, and they find themselves a 4th round straight now, 4-1.
Very good discipline there. Not even giving Lambton the chance. Skywalker almost had that play. It just comes down to that 1v1. Very unfortunate. Unable to come out on top of that. Fantastic positioning. And discipline again. Though it comes down to execution. This reminds me back on Azir Cave Hardpoint. And again, always coming out of those rotations early on were Lambton, but unable to come out for anything with that advantage alone. So Humber back on offense. 4 rounds up. I like this push coming through from Kush Point, actually. Could be challenging this player up here. It's across the construction site. The trades going on the opposite side. O'Malley and Bear able to trade off for Tunes and Crozier. 2 down on both sides.
We'll slow down Humber pretty considerably, though. As you see, the bomb is working its way into the cafe up top. That's Louis, who's got dead silence popped. Unfortunately, Volnicki is not able to get through on that push through that he was trying to make happen. So now numbers will favor Humber at the 3-on-2. Bomb is going to look to swing back over to A with those picks. But do they realize that there's a player for Lambton who's essentially chasing their shadows currently? He's working his way through the cafe. Kush Point sitting on the mid wall will have an opportunity to watch Stevie come through and help on the reinforcement portion of this hit. And now all of a sudden, Humber, all they have to do is plant the bomb and watch their backside, as they know that there's no way that anyone could hit from this electronic shop for free.
The Lambton player did make their way up on top rug, will now fall back.
Dead silence.
Dead silence is here. It's a play going to be for Maverick. Player right around the corner. Got to check. There it is. Look in the opposite direction was Stevie. The bear goes down. And that was a very ambitious challenge, but regardless, Humber puts themselves on that point.
Again, it's one of those things that a lot of these rounds, I haven't been disappointed with what I've seen from Lambton. It just comes down to, again, Humber just playing a strong mechanical game, baiting and switching, or just full-on baiting. But beyond that, the trades are there, the kills are there. And that really seems to be the difference maker in a lot of these rounds. It comes down to a 1v2. You know, the timing play the last round for Lambton on their previous offense almost favored Bear. And outside of Skywalker and Volnicki only going 2-6 between the two of them, it's still not a bad look for Lambton. They're playing the map well. It just comes down to the fact that they're just getting outgunned.
Getting outgunned all the way to map point. Humber Esports find themselves. It's going to be a push for A here. The challenge from Louis will take that with a smile on their face, ripping off O'Malley's. Though Val McKeely will be able to find Kush Point. I mean, these trades are good, but the information's already here, right? I mean, seeing multiple players over by construction on the opposite side, past where BDOM normally is located at shift, only means that Humber know where Lambton are trying to push to. The rotation's already here. B site is entirely cleared. And this is going to be a really good bait and switch from Lambton Esports, but not being able to find the kills again. 2 players left alive. That's Skywalker and Bear. They do have the bomb versus the 4 of Humber Esports.
Yeah, and this is a tough spot now. Bear with a 1v4, 60 seconds to play with, and no bomb.
No.
And he's currently pinned up inside the cafe, waiting for some service here. We'll be listening to a lot of people opening doors. Gets an opportunity at Crozier. We'll find the kill. Has to respond to more, though. We'll find a second, and the third was almost lined up, but it would have been ambitious because there was still a player from behind. And Humber Esports will take the Ramaza Search and Destroy 6-1, but you know, again, proper, I just have to say it, 250 to 119 and 6-1 here. Those score totals, I don't think really showcase how close Lambton really was. It really just came down to a couple of crucial moments and individual rounds there in Surge, or a couple of crucial holds that Humber were able to put together that Lambton just couldn't break. But the understanding of the game for, you know, Lambton Esports is not too far away from where you wanted. They're just getting a little bit outgunned currently.
I mean, you're not wrong. There's a lot of things that are being properly set up here for Lambton, and again, I'm on the same side with you all the way from Hardpoint. We can sit here and sing their praise, just like, oh, they're getting these early rotations over to P2, P3, and they're getting the setups and they're getting the spawns, and they could re-challenge this, but then it comes down to the gunfights, and when those gunfights break out, well, that's where they lose time and time again. You can see the cogwheels are there. They are turning very rapidly. It is a well-oiled machine for Lambton, but where there is one cog that is more grease on Humber, it's that mechanical skill. We saw from the Season 1 champions of Humber Esports. They are more than well adept to be landing those shots, to take those isolated 1v1s, to punish your awkward rotations coming out from the construction site on defense for Lambton. And again, just sheer map presence and pressure alone. They're not afraid to take it away from you.
100% the case. Again, Humber showcasing exactly why they're the champions and why they've been undefeated so far. Taking a look at our scoreboard and our map series set, where we're going to be going to next, it'll be Gunrunner for the domination. We also have Gunrunner to finalize the rest of this set in case the reverse sweep scenario starts to make light here. But again, after the 250 to 119 and the 6-1 on the Ramaza Search and Destroy, it's looking pretty solid here for Humber to walk away with this one. As candidly speaking, talking to Crozier last night, he was saying that they weren't super worried about this opponent. But again, you take a look at what's going on in the Northeast. The only 2 teams that have not dropped a series yet, as far as I could gather, is this Humber squad and Penn State Blue. Everybody else in the top 8 is currently sitting with 1 loss. And with that in mind, you know, this Lambton squad, if they could just polish things up and maybe, like you mentioned, get a little bit stronger with their individual gun skill, this is a team that I could absolutely see being top 5, maybe even top 4 in the Northeast.
Yeah, I would be very interested to see Lambton versus a multitude of these teams. Maryland would be one of them, for example, that I would love to see Lambton up against. Just for the sheer grid. I mean, Maryland, although in 9th place, they are traded out at 8th, ever so slightly going back and forth with York. I think that would be a very good matchup for Lambton to be able to not only train their skills, be able to showcase what they already are very good at, and that's going to be the veteran instinct of rotations in favorsome of that early 2 rounds, and for hardpoint rotations too. But we're Humber just coming out on top continuously. It's just in that gun presence and that pressure alone, and well, it always comes down to just hit your shots forehead, but it's a little bit more than that when you have all 5 of them aiming down sights and landing those shots at that from Humber.
Indeed, but for now, we'll send things to our small halftime break. When we come back, we'll be jumping into the Gunrunner domination. Humber Esports looking to not only stay undefeated, but to be perfect in this series. Will they find a 3-0, or can Lambton scrap together a map? We'll find out right when we come back. Welcome back to the CCL. We're going to map number 3 here. Humber currently up 2-0 over Lambton and the Lions. 251-19 the hardpoint, 6-1 the Search and Destroy. But, you know, I don't mean to be too biased here, but I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic about this Lambton Lions squad based on how they've played. Yeah, they're getting a little bit outgunned here, and it is to a Humber Esports squad using subs, but their setups have looked pretty decent. It just comes down to the simple fact that they're playing up against the number 2 team currently in the CCL. So how much could you really expect? Yeah,
I mean, their pre-objective setup is absolutely solid. You're not wrong. We've been hitting that since Zero Cave. And that's what made them get up to those 119 points where they lost to 250 from Humber, like you said. I mean, number 1 here in the Northeast Division, looking to carry on just that. Humber Esports keeping 1 to cap the home flag. So we're Lambton as the fight will break out here. One from Humber already pushing all the way through the office side. Already going to be pushing through train tracks. It's going to allow Tunes just to lay down prone, start capturing here for B.
Yeah, a little bit of a mistake there for the Lambton Lions. They don't have anyone watching the mid-water ramp, and that's exactly where Tunes is able to push through, just finding the gap in the defense. And now you're doing exactly what you need to. If you're Tunes, you push up to the staircase, you help out, and you start to zone off this B flag. And if they can get some pressure over towards the C bathroom area, this is where you start to set up that little bit of a spawn trap that the A side does have into its favor, because you know exactly where you can push Lambton to spawn from. It's very easy to find the kills. And right now, it's all Humber Esports over the middle of the map. Stevie able to find one more before that play can occur. And again, for Lambton, you got to start making a move somewhere. They're eventually going to take this guy who was solo playing towards C over towards the B side. They want to try to get a flip here. Neutralization starting to come in here for Valmiki, but it's actually going to be some reinforcements because flat out, he's not able to do it by himself. Maverick able to get into the mix, but Louis from the backside will pinch. Him and Kush Point will find 3, and that'll be enough to keep the point neutralized for now.
Spawns all the way out back towards the AC unit. Lambton won't have many more opportunities anytime soon to be hitting B-Dom, although neutral. We'll go back over to Humber here sometime soon. They're just trying to flood in here through dark. Some players starting to hit through the mid side. Good shots there from Kush Point. Won't be able to finalize the kill. That one will go down. Get snapped on, O'Malley. Kush Point now sliding into offices. Won't win that one, Valmiki. Will start working their way into Boiler Room. The most covenant location here if you want to get a good B-Dom hold. There are 2 players for Lambton in here. One of them breaking out, going down. That was Skywalker. Stevie ended up killing Valmiki, and that's going to be a free Boiler Room. Stevie opening things up wide. Going to be 2 more players here, along with Humber. Tunes joining Stevie. Going to start neutralizing B.
But you got a good position here for the Lions. Just need to find a way to win the gunfights. But you can see Stevie is right here with Tunes. And they're good enough to hold on to this B flag for now. Of course, meanwhile, Lambton did have to resecure their C flag. It was solo flip for a small time there, so the reinforcements could not come in the timing that they wanted. Still an 11-point game, though, not out of the reach by any means. And Valmiki trying to make a solo play through the woods will be shut down. And once again, you see Humber Esports, just very good understanding of the map, pushing through this B flag, getting good control over towards the C side of the map. And they're doing a nice job of zoning and finding easy pressure here onto the spawns of Lambton Lions.
And they're always having one more player from Humber reset and go back over to the tin side. Start looking at the C-Dom. There is a player for Lambton inside showers. We'll be able to get a good wraparound there in tins, taking care of that player. I believe that was Maverick. Got to slide a little bit harder into Tunes' DMs if you want to take that kill. Tunes will be able to trade that one back. Maverick going down. Humber Esports, again, like you said, already doing a fantastic job. That once they have the advantage towards the B-Dom side, they just push through dark, push through boiler, all the way into the office through the vents, and find themselves really on top, making Lambton spawn all the way out towards the AC unit once again.
And here comes Louis trying to follow up on one of his teammates who was trying to get the full Dom situation, but Lambton will make sure the neutralization turns back into their favor. Somehow the Semtex didn't find any tags. I thought for sure it was going to be a glory nade, but doesn't find a connection. And Louis has slipped right through both of these players from the Lions who just went through the crate side. And if Louis puts himself on the flag, he would be in a good position to neutralize, if not maybe fully captured, depending on what occurs off the spot. But he wants to hit up the water ramp. We'll try to find the pinch, but does get shut down from behind by Bear. And that'll be enough for hopefully Lambton to start making a play back over towards this B flag.
Yeah, Bear's going to get sniffed out on the opposite side of office, trying to look in the dark. There was a player on the other side. Won't be able to get that kill. However, again, Lambton, they're finding themselves with the setups. They're just coming down to locating with the kills. Valmiki not being able to see that there were 2 Humber players right behind him. Skywalker will try to come in and recontest here, but Louis has a better plan for B-Dom, and that's keeping it in Humber's favor. How about 3 straight? 11-5 for Louis. It's having themselves a bit of a game after being from a meat shield back on S&D Ramaza.
Yeah, having himself a little bit of a coming out party here.
Yeah.
Not being the bait here in the bait and switches. He's just having himself a bit of a field day as he will sit on top of the coal stairs. Tunes again holding the control room of this boiler area. And again, these are the 2 positions that you want to have if you're Humber Esports from the A side of the map. This is how you start to set up that spawn trap. Now, they have to be careful because Melly has put himself inside this boiler room, and no one's challenged yet. And with that, Lambton's actually pushing right through the C side of the map through the side, and Melly will find one in response. So now all of a sudden, with pressure towards A and 2 members over by the B flag, there's an opportunity to get a second flag here for Lambton Esports. They'll only come through with the neutralization. Louis will spawn out by C, and he will come back for Humber to make sure that they're starting to win to maybe find the first triple dom of the game.
It just seems that Tunes has taken up a mortgage over on the B-Dom site. You're going to have to work a whole lot harder. He's been walking in and is finding at least 3 kills. It seems every single life now is on 4 straight. Will go down. But still, I mean, look how much damage just from the map pressure being taken away has already been done in way of Humber Esports. Again, finding 1 or 2 towards the center and Boiler, then just turns into a hard engage and push all the way past the train tracks into the CDOM site to where it is, for a moment's time, a full 3-dom hold for Humber. Wait, to be extremely...
We didn't see it on screen, but Bear just won that second engagement at that little jump peak before we swapped away. He's really been a performer for this Lambton squad. Definitely catching my eye, without a doubt, as he had a really good hardpoint game and obviously had a really solid search and destroy where he found those 3 in a row. But we're going to finish this first half at double the points plus a little bit extra here for Humber Esports. A very demanding first half, 127-63. Which is almost as bad as it gets, I think, if you're the Lambton Lions. And it just came down to the fact that they were being strangle-held by that push through the B flag to get that spawn trap in effect. And we're never really fully able to break it, and Humber just took advantage round after round.
It's just the beauty of the AB hold, right? You keep spawning out on this backside over by trees. You always have one player for Humber rotating into tins, keeping them preoccupied with the flank from showers. Not always continuously holding the waterway from CDOM. And from showers all the way down, Humber Esports found that flank time and time again. And just being able to sheer control the boiler room. We talk about it every single time we're here on Gunrunner throughout every single game mode, it seems. That boiler room is such a covenant location to be controlled. BDOM, not even contested so far for Lambton Esports. I mean, they're going to have to get a triple cap here at some point shift. These early trades could be setting themselves up for it. Louis has to break all the way back towards the showers, just to try to secure back in the CDOM flag. Bears back here with Skywalker and Maverick was causing a nuisance. Will go down by way of Louis.
And for Lambton, that was a full push through the woods, trying to get a flip towards C, and they come off their second respawn and try to full flood to B. But again, from the C side of the map, if you're Humber Esports, there are a lot of very easy angles to check that B flag safely, and you're seeing exactly what occurs after the kill feed comes through. Humber Esports from the C side of the map will not only take B, but they're going to send 2 players through and look to make a play at A here as well.
Spawns coming through here. There's one player in Humber. That's Cush Point, having themselves a little bit of time towards the spawn of Lambton. Will finally go down by way of Maverick after being spawned in. Now it just comes down to how can you defend this, because I mean, Humber, again, once they find themselves some trades, such as the player back over on the tins, they're going to be able to push on forward through trees. Coal mines not being able to be well held here by Lambton. Again, it's going to be space that's going to be taken away. Crozier, it's off way of a 2-piece there here in the coal mines. It's going to be suppressing all of Lambton inside their spawns. And this is what's scary when you do have such a definitive CB hold, is that you almost really need Lambton to get a spawn out on the other side, which they do. It's going to be Maverick that's going to start working on the CDOM.
If you're looking for a perfect game from Humber, this moment right here is absolutely not it. Just as a bit of small criticism for the squatters, I'm sure they'll go back and relook at this. They send so many players through the B flag towards A, but they never rotate anyone back over the middle towards the C flag, so they actually lose spawns for a small moment. And then after they lose the spawns, they never commit to pushing into the A side of the flag, so they're not able to get the full double cap there. So a small mistake there for Humber. It's not going to really make too much of a difference for them, though. They're going to be able to fight right back over to this B flag. That's until Skywalker finds himself, too. And now all of a sudden, maybe this is a bit of a mistake here for Humber, because they've lost the C flag. They're going to lose the B flag as well. And unless they come back through with numbers to the middle of the map, they're not going to have map control either.
Don't underestimate Skywalker and their true powers. Not this time, though. Cush Point will take them out.
Oh, that's rude.
Yeah, a little bit. Teammate did come through, however.
Oh, boy.
Again, letting us know how he feels. I mean, who needs ammo, right? One more player going down. It's Stevie killing Bear from the boiler room. Will be a BDOM flip coming in. 158 to 101. Now 159. Humber Esports, the decent lead here against Lambton. But again, it's all off of just a little bit of a mistake there. Again, not either committing to push and get A in their home flag.
They're doing it again.
C. They're finding themselves here again. There is one player, though, for Humber. 2 now spawning back towards CDOM. So they will be able to maintain spawns for the time being.
That was pretty fortunate, because again, there were a couple players from Lambton that spawned top right corner of the minimap, and it almost nearly happened the second time in a row. And that moment right there, I think, is kind of giving us the true test of what this set has looked like. It's just been a couple of outgunning moments for Humber here and there. Again, it's been a pretty even series as far as setups go. It just comes down to the simple fact that this Humber team is so skilled individually. Bear will get the spawn back over towards the C flag, and with that, there will be an AC hold for a small moment here for Lambton Esports. Just comes down to, from here, do you push through the wood side and try to go over to get the A flag back, or do you go right into the gun of Cush Point, apparently? As everyone was sprinting, and Cush Point found 2 for free. And with that, looks like Lambton will not find much success to find a second flag, and with 2 minutes remaining, it will be Humber Esports likely taking the win here.
And now Humber have the AB hold. They're going to be able to take firm control of showers, the office side on the other side of boiler room. Although there is one player, that's O'Malley, working their way here with Maverick towards the B-Dom site. Good kills here, killing off Tunes. It's not going to be able to work there, not with the trophy system right nearby. We'll put theirs down instead. They could get this flip here. It's neutralized for the time being. Good kill from Skywalker on a Kush point. And this is the CB hold right here, Shift. I mean, the time is not on their side, though. If they want to show us anything from Lambton, this could be it.
Yeah, and again, this is just a proving moment. Nice kills here again for Skywalker. Looking to keep abusing through the boxes. Finds one more. Okay, an opportunity here. And again, you got to start heading over towards this A flag. Will not find the full kill, but one bullet needed to find Louis. We'll try to jump through and just nearly grab it. 5 straight for Skywalker, who's again trying to neutralize. One more up close. Will eventually be traded. And Kush point, please. We don't need to give him any more work for his worry, as this Lambton squad will definitely fall here. Again, just a minute left to play. And even with a triple dom, there's not enough mathematical points left in the bank for them to come back.
No, it is mathematically impossible. I'm not a numbers individual. I am like to think that I'm pretty good with words time to time. But again, just the points, again, shouldn't have been this close. Again, Humber Esports overextending by that time. Being a little bit nitpicky, both me and Shift, I suppose. But again, it's if you want to solidify yourself as a top 3 team, such as how Humber find themselves here within the top 25, being at number 2, you got to be doing a little bit more than that.
Oh, no!
Here. Absolutely dirty. Look at the assassination. Gonna go for the double tap. No zombies coming through against Humber Esports here on Gunrunner, and they're going to be able to win this out 3-0, keeping their map loss record. It seems to be only at 1 map loss. That Ramaza S&D will forever haunt them, but they got a little bit of indication that they know how that map plays out with the 6-1 here today.
And again, this is a Humber squad that's not playing with their full starting 5. They are playing with a couple of subs just to give them a little bit of work. So, you look at some of those mistakes that were made in this domination for Humber. Maybe that's attributed to the simple fact that, again, you're playing with a couple players that might not be as in tune with where you're going after you get such a dominating win. And it looks like this one will end with, of course, Humber winning, but at a 219-152 total. And our number 2 team currently in the CCL in the top 25 will roll on and stay undefeated.
Yeah, I mean, again, how many times are we going to talk about all these close-range maps? Azir Cave is controlled by its M4s, but once you get over to Gunrunner, Hackney Yard also comes to Mind Shift. Those MP5s are just, I feel like oppressive just doesn't give it justice anymore. It's just without an MP5 player controlling legitimately everything, within from side flanks, finding those long-range kills against M4s, making the plays happen, such as Tunes, Kush Point. Bear can only have done so much, to be quite honest.
Totally agree with you on that, Sir. And for this one, again, like you mentioned, we'll take a look back at our scoreboard. Just make sure you guys are reminded of what exactly did occur here. Humber Esports, like we mentioned, staying undefeated, 250-119, 6-1 on the Ramaza Search and Destroy, and then the 219-152 that we just previously saw here on Gunrunner Domination. So Humber Esports, like we mentioned, will stay on top of the Northeastern Division. But I don't think it's all bad news here for Lambton. There were a couple of moments that I think if you go back, rewatch it, check a look at that minimap, just to kind of get yourself in tune with where you guys are positioned. The setups are decent, honestly speaking. Like, there's not a lot to really discredit for what they played in the hard point or the search. It just came down to the fact, like you mentioned, that Bear really needs some help, and individual gun skills is something maybe to work on, and maybe find a way to get some more raw mechanics in duo form, right? A little bait and switch, a couple of double chows, maybe some of those fights go your way, and you make that game a little bit closer. I mean, the expectations, I don't think were very high going into this one. Again, this Humber squad, a lot of people are still saying that maybe they should be the best team of the CCL, maybe they're the 3rd best. They've been sitting at number 2 for quite some time, and between them, Concord, and Texas A&M, who we'll see later tonight, actually both of those teams later tonight, we'll get a pretty good look to see where exactly they kind of pale in comparison to some of those squads, because flat out, this Humber team did look very polished.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a well-oiled machine. You bring back that point that we brought up right at the beginning of the broadcast shift, right at the end of Black Ops 4. It was hard to pinpoint an MVP for this team, and it seems to be going that way yet again. I mean, Tunes, Kush Point, Louis, even for having a meat shield of a time on S&D, absolutely popped off there on Domination with 27-19 coming to life with their MP5 and had themselves a good time on Hardpoint. Nevertheless, Lambton, again, just to hit the point that Shift hit as well. I mean, I was impressed. The Pre-engagement setups were absolutely there. It just comes down to those gun mechanics. I mean, you have take the domination, for example, when Stevie was just controlling trees continuously all the way through through tins. That if you have a player that can continuously win 1v1s, 1v2s, you can come out on top of those engagements continuously. But until you find one of those players, you have to find the setups that are going to be able to pertain to you and your team.
Indeed. The grind goes on there for Lambton and the Lions. And for us, we'll send things to a break here in a small moment. Coming up, you're not going to want to miss this one. Number 3 Concord going up against number 6, the University of Illinois, their Orange Squad, and a barn burner in the Midwest. Yes, Midwest. I believe that's where they are. Yes, they are in the Midwest. They're currently at the top there. Neither one of them have lost the series yet. And this is going to be one of it again. Is this Illini squad worth a top 3 spot? We'll find out soon as they'll be going up against the powerhouse of the Concord Maroon squad just after this break.